Welcome back to the League of Inches podcast, another team's preview from a Supercoach point of view. Again, I've got Jesse along for the ride. For all those newcomers, we seem to be gaining new followers by the day, by the hour at the moment. Really appreciate the growth we are receiving from YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and just social media pages as a whole. But Jesse has finished 14th overall last year. It still burns him a little bit, but it's great effort. He missed out on that top 10 just, and it spurs him on to be better this year. And that's only a good thing for us at League of Inches and everyone listening, because we're going to pick his brain as we do each and every week and find out what he's thinking when it comes to Supercoach and how he's thinking of players. But the best thing with these teams preview is we go through pretty much each and every team that we have. So tonight's the Dolphins, the Newcastle Knights, and the Cronulla Sharks. And we will literally go through every player that we feel like matters and talk about all the talking points. We'll have the slideshow up again, guys. So if you do want to go over to YouTube, make sure you hit subscribe and watch the video version. There'll be some questions up there and the like, and you can see our happy, smiley, perky little faces as well. Jesse, how's your week been? Supercoach is starting to get turned up a notch. I know that we've started the draft league, so we're all talking about getting that finer details in point where to kick off, which is always a hard moment to get the right timing for everyone. All the comps are starting up, the codes and stuff. My things are quickly filling up. It's been a big week.
Yeah, it's coming in very quickly, isn't it? Like faster than I'm sort of comfortable with, to be honest with you, because there's still so much discussion around so much. I suppose once we get trials and things are settled and teams looking more likely to be the ones you're locked in with, you feel a bit more confident about it. But at the moment, I'm still looking at, essentially a blank slate with so many ideas, and I'm getting all these posts coming through, and there's all these leagues started up now, and drafts aren't too far off either, and that's a big thing too for me. So it's I'm super keen though, man. Like I haven't been this keen for a season to kick off in a while, and this has probably got a lot to do with it, I'd say, because it tends to just be a lot just running myself and then a couple of drafts on the side. But yeah, now there's just league after league and competition everywhere, so it's red hot, man. I love it.
Chats after chats. I feel like I've got about 30 chats going on at the moment, and it can get a bit full on, but I'm loving it. As you said, it's rugby league central at the moment, and it's only, I think, 2 weeks until our first preseason game kicks off as well. So it's all happening very, very quickly. I can't wait for it. But let's get stuck into it straight away. We have the Dolphins first up. I'll bring up the slide. So again, guys, we'll just have some questions up there just to sort of keep us on track with things, and it's pretty much questions that will be answered throughout this chat. But if we do miss anything, these are things that has been sent through the page and things like that. So if we haven't answered it by the end of the Dolphins part of the podcast, we will answer those questions. So first up, the hookers, we will go with Jeremy Marshall-King, 639K. Now, I guess he comes into discussion when people talk about not having Harry Grant as probably the next best option. A lot of people are trying to say anyway. Where are you at with Jeremy Marshall-King? Obviously, he had a really great start last year. He was one of the players to have in Supercoach there. And then he kind of, obviously injury, run and the like, sort of went down a little bit. And I think that's why he's priced where he is. I definitely think there's money to be made. I'm unsure how to play Jeremy Marshall-King.
Yeah, he had a really good year last year for the Dolphins, and obviously had that injury. And like obviously Marshall-King's been around for a little while now, but coming from the Dogs, you can't really expect a great deal. But he was very, very impressive last season, and I think where his value comes in at 639 as far as hookers go, like he's just shy of Grant. Like he's the second highest rated one there, and to be fair, it's valid. Like I see his ownership at 13%. It's quite high. Considering, you know what I mean? Like considering what you've got at the top to what you've got in like the 500s, I'm almost in the mindset of like just get Grant if you're going that high up for your hooker, or just save a bit going down. So there's a lot of factors when we'll get into the fins when you're just thinking about the draw, the buys, his run as well, and like the introduction of Graham too towards the back end where he got injured and he started rotating. Like I don't see Graham disappearing anymore. I have to check whether or not Marshall-King had a solid 80-minute roll up until he got that injury, but I feel like it was. I feel like he was just doing 80s pretty consistently, and then obviously things started to dip off for him. But I don't mind. I really do like Marshall King, and it's just one of those things. I think it's a bit early for him. Like I'd be more than hot to get on Marshall King at some point, but at the moment, I just think he's in that sort of in the middle where I'd either spend up big and go grand and forget about it, or I just spend a bit cheaper because I don't really see him as the set and forget type. But it just depends. Like he could probably go up in value and he could probably go up in average compared to what he did last year. But I think the minute sharing is a bit more of a rotation for him, which he may not have encountered as much last season. So probably just to watch, I would think.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I'll run through the first 5 games for the Dolphins because I remember last week I kept forgetting it and I almost did this week as well. The Cowboys round 1, round 2 is the Dragons, then the bye round 3, which does come at a very awkward time for Supercoach players. It's not ideal when there's a few players here to look at. Round 4, the Gold Coast Titans, and round 5, the West Tigers. So it's a great draw. Apart from that buy for a super
Yeah.
coach, for an NRL point of view, it's a brilliant draw because it's a 2 points right there, and then maybe some other 2 points coming with those teams. But that buy is very painful. We might as well get it out because it is one of the questions.
Yeah.
How much do you look into that? Is that something that could persuade or should persuade you looking at a Dolphins player early?
Oh, it can, like it has a bit too. And like to be honest with you, man, we'll go through this team. I'm so hot on a few of these Dolphins players. Hey, there's so many really good value picks for them, and you don't want to overstack your team because come round 3, you lose them all. It's not an issue if you've got depth. That's end of story for that one, really. I wouldn't be going, don't get any Dolphins because they have an early buy. It's more so just be aware of the buy and if you can cover your losses for it because Marshall King's a great option. You've got some of the best players in center wing realistically at the moment that you're probably going to be putting through the Dolphins, and then even their front rowers, they're just everywhere. You've got value everywhere for this team. It's so good, but you just need that coverage, man. That's all it is. Because if you overstack them, and to be fair, they have got pretty good value points increase wise. Like I think you're probably going to get a cash generation out of nearly all of them, realistically, depending on who they are. But if you're getting them in, and like if you're stacking one position with them, you're not going to have the depth regardless. So if you're getting a couple of the center wings in with Bostock or Azarko or Herbie, and they're all gone at the same time, that's when you have an issue. But if you get one, like it's one player, you got to buy, probably going to come across a buy every week, and it's not going to be that big of an issue. But just stacking them, I feel like is going to be detriment. But yeah, it's an early buy. At the end of the day, too, it is early enough where you can kind of just go, oh, it's early in the season, I can kind of get past it, but you don't want to get too far left behind with it. So
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you're saying, and with the season as a whole, and every team gets the buys and stuff. These days, it's sort of it's not ideal, I guess, from a cash point. Like everyone loves that after that round 3, that the cash starts to flow a little bit, and the Dolphins players like to wait an additional week for that to happen. But it is what it is. I think, as you said, like if you're going to start some of these Dolphins players, they're going to be players you're not looking at ideally getting rid of straight away anyway. They're going to be cash flowing with them for quite some time. So you ride the wave. The other hookers, which I don't think at the moment are too much of a sort of a get yet or an option. Ray Stone got the dual second row forward and hooker, probably waiting for a injury to come. So he's playing a lot more minutes to be worthy of. He's about 421K at the moment. So 1% ownership. Yeah, I'm not
that's
too sure over
surprising at
there.
one. Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
even 1% ownership
I thought one
surprising
was
there.
too
I don't
many.
understand. Who's putting Ray Stone in your team with 1% ownership at 420K? Like he's so
If
expensive
you are that
for
person and you listen
either
to us, can
position.
you please message a page and just let us know or
Why?
people, I should say, why? Yeah,
There's a few in
just
there. For a
just let us
1%, you'd
know.
have to think there's a few there. So
Not
that's a bit of a
judging. We just
blowout.
want to know your. We
No, I'm
just want to hear your
curious.
thoughts about it. Harrison Graham got a taste of first grade last year. 6 matches, 0%, 349K. I don't think he's an option either. And Kurt Donahue, great young talent coming through. 7 games last year. One to look for if Jeremy Marshall King does get injured, because I think he might be next in line for that spot. So if there is, touch wood, hopefully there's not. We say it every week, but if there is a long-term injury or something early on from Jeremy Marshall King, I'm telling you what, Donahue does look quite tempting, even to get a quick cash out of some Jaden Braley and go to that. So the front row forwards, there is one who's a massive, it's quite a sizable percentage. We'll get to him. Start at the top. Jared Wallace, 563K, 0% ownership. Not a temptation for me at all. Yourself?
No, not at that price.
No.
You saw what he did at the back end of last season too, man. He was phenomenal. So there was a good amount of like 90s and 80s in there, enough to pique interest. But obviously he's priced accordingly now. So I think as far as it goes, he's probably going to come off the bench. He tends to do that anyway, and it doesn't really seem to hinder him too much. But can string together some good minutes too off the bench, and he's done quite well with it. So just 560 for a front rower with too many clouds over it. It's just not worth it. But I reckon potentially down the line, just depending what happens with the forwards there, if he can just get back to form and he comes back at a good price, and you just got to sort of time it really well with him. I think it's very, very much just to see what happens potentially down the year. But good player, and he can do it. But for now, I don't think that's a very good option. 0% for a reason. So.
Yep, no, I agree. Next two in line, Kenny Bromwich and Mark Nichols, basically around the same sort of price, that 480K mark. 1% for Kenny. Again, that 1%, please message the page. I'm not too sure the thinking behind that one. And Mark Nichols is 0%. The next one, let's talk. Tom Flegler. I did put a post out on the page, I think this morning, about this one as well. And I've got him down as a must-have, which I know talking to it with you, we'll probably have a bit of a discussion about this one. You're not as high on Flegler. You can definitely understand the play, but I don't think you have him in the must-have category. I do, just purely from the price tag, and I think in the minutes he will play, he had an average last year of 46.6. I see that going up at least 10 points. So that's the reason I have him in the must-have category, if not maybe a little bit more as well. We know the motor he has on him, and looking at the options for the Dolphins, they've got some okay options, but they've got a lot of older players as well who won't go the minutes that Flegler can. So that could be something that Wayne Bennett likes to use at his disposal. So Thomas Flegler, 475K, a must-have for mine, and I'd go as far as saying he's in my top 2 props to start as well.
I see the appeal for him, definitely. I can't really call any front row a must-have, to be honest with you. It's one of those positions where you kind of just, a lot of people will do a very similar job, and I'm just like, you're just expecting a bigger role out of him. That's kind of where his upside will be. Just depend on what the role he has, because it wasn't like he had a small role at the Broncos. You know what I mean? Like, obviously he played Haas, and there was Carrigan there too that had such a big impact on the team. But it wasn't like Flegler was just in there, just chipping away and doing stuff. Like, he still did a fair bit of work. And it's not a super coach friendly role. So I still think he's got that 10 point of value to him, which could push him up to the high 500s, close to 600 potentially too, which is really good value. I'm still on the fence about starting with him or not, though, because for the same point that I made, a few minutes ago about having too many Dolphins players, there is a couple Dolphins guys in there that I am definitely keen on and potentially interested in just chucking in the team and running with them to begin with. And I don't want to get caught up having 3, 4, 5 Dolphins players. You know what I mean? That's just, it's just going to catch me out too quickly. Mainly about that early buy, and even just about the team in general. You know what I mean? When you sort of overdo that position with one team, and they do bad, you feel it everywhere. So there is a couple of mid 400Ks that are pretty good. He's probably the dearest out of the cheaper bracket of front rowers, considering who I've been looking around at. But like, I see the value. You know what I mean? 20% ownership is valid for that reason. So he might end up in the team, but at the moment I haven't really played with the idea of it too much. So he's just going to have to put more effort in, I suppose. Like, you're just going to have to play more minutes, or his effort's always been really good. You know what I mean? Like, I can't see him really, like, do you see him pushing it into another gear when he gets to the Dolphins that he couldn't do at the Broncos? Or is it maybe more of like
how many
the
bananas
limelight's a
they
bit?
feed him?
Yeah, maybe. I suppose the limelight's going to be a bit more on him now, as opposed to Haas Carrigan every single play. So because he will be their main prop. Like there's no doubt about
yeah.
his position coming in and just being the general for them all. So for that, I see natural points increase, but by how much is the question really. So because he played 19 games, 46 average. Just having a look, like there was a couple, the two last games, the very, very late ones, were his two best games of the whole year. And that was 78 points and 79 points. So barring one other game around 17 where he scored 71, everything else was below 50 really. So, like even still, if he gets a 50 average, that's 20, 30K increase. It's not enough to be considered a cash option. It's just, he's just going to chip away and get you that 50. And that's never a bad thing for a prop anyway, especially not when you're paying 600K for him and you're not losing any coin. You're either just going to get a bit or he's going to do what you're paying him for, and it's not a bad run. So that's kind of why I don't have him in the must-have. You know what I mean? Like if he was 380, far out, guaranteed, you got to throw him in there. But yeah, closer to that 500, I think he's just going to get what he's priced at, maybe a bit more in those games here and there.
Interesting
So
thing, I look at the stats here as well on the Supercoach app, and the pick starting slash the bench, which we can now have access to. So far, of those that have that 20%, 85% are actually starting with him, 15% are on the bench with him. So I think those that are picking Flegler are picking him as one of their big dog props, one of those top two, as I was saying. So I'm guessing it's probably a partnership
yeah,
with majority would have him with probably Payne Haas.
yeah,
And as you said, they're probably just looking at that stock standard 50, maybe 55, if they can get him up to that. And probably quite happy with that because, as you said, there's going to be a lot of props, but I guess just a balance of your squad as well. Like you want to be able to, and we've spoken about this in the past, even when we did speak about Payne Haas to a certain extent, is early on, what do you want to do? Would you want to pay up a bit bigger on your forwards, or leave that money to get your maybe a second better fullback, or a second better, or a Cleary in as your second halfback? So you just got to balance it up, and I think that's a big thing we've got to say this year. And one thing that I've learned as well over the time, because I used to be a very social Supercoach player until the last year or two, where I started to take it a lot more seriously, and I never used to think about that sort of stuff. I used to think, as you said, Flegler, like, yep, perfect, better role, things like that. But now, like some of the points you just made to me, I'm already thinking, hang on, hang on, do I have him in the must-have category anymore? Because maybe there's someone else who's even 100K cheaper, maybe 150K cheaper, that could be getting the same sort of points, especially early on. Like maybe a
yeah.
Samuel Hughes. We've got some injury concerns
Well,
at the Dogs. He could easily,
that's
for mine, early on, could get a 50 point just from base, because that Dogs pack will need him to do some work. So that's a big thing to look out for.
yeah, and that's kind of it really, man, because if he had the consistent, it doesn't even need to be consistent, but if he could pump out a 75, 80 score every 5 weeks, but then continue to chip away mid 40s, 50s, you'll take that because he has that sort of thing. But he only did it a couple of games last year, and they were literally the last two games of the year. So you can sort of discount that because people will be getting rested, towards finals and whatever's going on. He might get a bit more of a run, and they're trying to get some younger guys in. So, yeah, I just don't see I don't see upside immediately for him. But I feel like you could probably get that sort of points output. You could be completely wrong. He could go out there and play 60 plus and average a point a minute, which is going to be really good for his price. But I feel like you're probably going to be able to get very similar scores to him for someone who's 400K. Or 430, 450. The Dogs guys in general too. You mentioned them. Liam Knight's 330. I can't imagine Liam Knight's going to do what Flegler can do, but if he gets a solid minute run in that prop position because Sutton's gone, there's a very good chance that he could score a 50. You know what I mean? And that's really good value for the same points. So you're buying points. You know what I mean? You're not buying the player. So yeah, it's just I'm still not off him though. You know what I mean? Like I still think he's a really good pick. It's just it just depends. And at that sort of ownership percentage too that you mentioned, 15% on the bench is a lot of money to be putting into your props if you're spending 475K and he's on the bench there. Like who are you starting with? And what does the rest of your team look like if that's the case? Because
You're starting Flegler, or you're not naming him for mine. You don't need to put that
Exactly.
on the
Yeah.
bench. That
And
is
I'm
that's
even
silly.
yeah, I'm sort of going against what I said the other week too about like starting with Haas, you know what I mean? I've never not done it, but I'm starting to understand a
Oh,
bit more of
okay.
the just seeing that value, you know what I mean? 750K for a 75 point, where 750K in another position, a fullback, you know, it's almost Latrell. You're going to get hundreds and hundreds, and that's the thing. So it's just the discussion about like how much is a drop compared to what you can get in another position. And I'm starting to swing my teams around a little bit more to like, you know, the 400, 500 prop bracket to start with, and then really boost the value outside of that. For the
Breaking
start
news.
anyway.
Breaking news. Jesse set to part ways with Payne Haas, which from a Supercoach point of view, I didn't think I'd ever have that headline out for League of Inches. So be prepared for a
We're
post,
not there
guys.
yet. We're not there yet, but
But even the
it
thought about it, media would run
yeah.
with that. That's all they need, a sniff.
Oh, of
That's all
course,
I
man.
want
I've
right
said
now, a
it. That's
sniff.
it.
I'm
Oh,
running
Buzz is
out
going to
with
be
it.
all over me now. Far out. But you just think about like between Flegler and Haas, you know what I mean? What have you got? 4, 5, 6. That's 300K between the two of them, or just under, obviously 750 to 475. So that's a lot of coin, man. That's a lot of coin to find if you don't have it. And then you start talking like I downgrade my premium second rowers into a mid-range second rower. But it's like there's actual points there to be made, more so than you're going to get out of those front rowers. So that's where you can go. Even if you went Flegler's my main starting prop at 475, I don't even think that's really a bad idea as far
I
as
was
it
about
runs
to
at the
ask you that
moment.
question.
Yeah, I don't
Is
think that's really too
downgrading
bad.
Haas to Flegler as your main guy a bad shot? Because that would free up almost 300K. And as you
Yeah,
said, that would let you do quite some things to really project that ceiling for your team early on with, as you said, those for mine to start with at the moment. I don't actually have a second gun fullback yet, and that makes me nervous because every single year I've played Supercoach, whether it was seriously or not, I've always had the double gun fullback.
yeah,
And this is so far the first year where I'm taking a lot more seriously, and I haven't got that. It's actually starting to make me nervous, and
yeah,
I'm starting to think the same because yeah, I'd love that sound of that 70 point each week from Payne Haas. I know he's going to be good to start with, but good and starting well for other players in other positions is a lot more points than the 70 odd. So
yeah.
do I
That's
do
kind of
I
where
take the hit?
that's my mindset at the moment, dude. So
Because we're
just
also because we are talking with Flegler, and the last thing with Flegler is we have said some of the points to make you maybe say he's only going to average 50 or maybe 55, but there is also a lot of points for him. Maybe he can average 60, 65. We don't know yet, just because we don't know
yeah,
about
well,
the role. Like
of
if he's the
course.
main guy there, he's going to have Gilbert doing a lot of the hard work around the ruck, a lot of the defensive work, which should free up Flegler a bit more to be a bit more attacking. Where last year and the years before at the Broncos, he hasn't been called upon to be that guy because it had Payne Haas. The Dolphins don't have Payne Haas. The Dolphins
No.
don't have a forward pack that can do that sort of work. Flegler is their man to be their Payne Haas. So if he becomes that sort of figure, then he looks like an absolute steal at 470K. And after round 3, when they're after their bye, we're probably telling everyone, if you don't have Flegler yet, you must get on him this week. Like you just have to do it.
Mm,
So definitely it's one of those wait and sees. But as you said, like it's just about like that first couple of weeks balancing up what you want to do in terms of points, and it's looking more and more likely, as you said, for me as well. I don't think I'll start with Haas. Is Flegler going to be my main prop guy? That's my next question.
yeah,
So
well, at 475, you can kind of justify it. But again, like that's the point. You know, if he just did 50s and the occasional 70, 80 last year at the Broncos with, you can call it a reduced role compared to what he'll have at the Dolphins. If that's what he'll do as a baseline, he can only go up because he'll just be playing more and he'll naturally be doing more. So, you know, if you can look at this previous year and go, okay, cool, he did this, and I'm happy with just getting that at the very least, there is only upside for you. So,
yeah, no, I
um,
agree.
yeah,
Jesse Bromwich for mine isn't a Supercoach option this year. And I think he'll get some some less minutes this year, especially now with Flegler, as we've just spoken about there. And you got Jared Wallace there, and you got the next man I want to have a little quick chat about, Josh Kerr. 349K. He's got the dual second row and front row forward. 1% ownership so far. Now, this isn't actually one that I'm going to say, I'm going to question that 1%, because one thing I will say on Josh Kerr is last year was a tough year for him. He was never the player that he was looking like he could have been the year before that at the Dragons. And he was having a great year that I think it was in 2022. Was a really good year for Josh Kerr. And this is a sneaky signing last year. When they first got him, I was like, oh, it's good for Josh Kerr to get away. Now he's got a full preseason at the Dolphins and he'll join that bench rotation. It's just a question about minutes, what minutes he will get. Personally, I'm not starting with him. I will say that now. But it's someone that I will be keeping an eye on. I'll say that now. I'll keep an eye on him and his minutes because, again, if Bromwich, if Wallace or something gets injured and a long-term injury, I think Josh Kerr gets minutes increased and could become a sneaky little option for a bit of a cash grab or the like. So not starting, but I can definitely see some upside with Josh Kerr as the season goes on.
Yeah. I remember looking very, very early days when the app sort of come back out and reset and you could have a team play with it, that he was at there and he was priced in the 350s and dual as well, which is very handy. He just needs the minutes, man. I think you might actually do quite well in that team, just depending on how he runs. Because last season, his points per minute were roughly around like 1.3 on average throughout the whole season. Only really playing those 20, 30-minute roles off the bench. So impact's a bit different to starting and, getting a consistent run of that stretch of points during the game. But, 350 isn't too bad if he can get himself a run. And I think, by the time you're waiting it out and he might get a run if someone goes down, there's a good chance that he probably goes down in price. If they've got that many forwards to rotate through and he's only getting 15, 20 minutes here and there. Like sometimes actually you might even want that to happen. You might even want him to just take a bit of a dip so that he becomes more appealing for you. And, realistically, man, these guys are pretty old out there. Basically, all of them are. They're all aging, not very gracefully, to be fair. But there's a good shout that he can get a starting position at some point in the year. And I think when that happens, if he's, around the same price or maybe even lower, it's definitely appealing. Even just as someone to sell and cash down into anyone, like that's kind of where you would be doing it. I don't think you go there chasing him. I think you just sort of cash out of someone for him. So
I agree. Second row forward time. There's not too much to talk about with this one actually for their position. I'm keen to get into some of the other positions I've got coming, but just quickly, Tom Gilbert. The top two are probably the two most likely candidates I think for this side, and 602K, 59 average last year, 2% ownership. Only played the 11 matches. I feel like for a rugby league point of view, that's when the Dolphins really fell away with their season. Coincidentally, when Tom Gilbert got injured, I think he was the heart and soul of that team. Really led from the front. And as I said, could have easily, for mine, could be a leader or the captain of that side in the next couple of years. I can't pay 600K for my second row of Tom Gilbert, knowing that there's not a lot of the top high stats that we can get from him. He's just going to be a standard, probably that 59, 60 player each week, which isn't bad. But when I can get that from some of those cheaper second row options, which we've already spoken about and we'll speak about for more teams, I'm not going to entertain him at the moment. And the same sort of with Lemuelu will be the same. 554K, 0% ownership after his year last year, I think, because he hasn't got the dual anymore. He doesn't have that center wing, which hurts him. But what's your thoughts on those, the top two, which I think are the only real two to talk about when it comes to the second row options for the Dolphins?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Tom Gilbert. You know what I mean? Like you saw what the Dolphins did with him last year, and he was just a freaking monster for him. And he had a few big games too. I think he got almost turned up a couple of times. So he did it once, and then he got close twice. So it's pretty impressive, really, for Tom Gilbert. You know what I mean? You wouldn't really put him in the discussion. So just unfortunately missed half the season, man. That was the problem. I think it hurt the Dolphins big time as well. So they start off against the Cowboys. I'm sure he'd like to smack them again because he scored 106 points against them last time. So it might not be a sneak. Like that's a pretty good play, really. I don't mind it, but again, 600 is a lot. When you look at that mid-tier bracket that everyone's raving on about, there's too many options there to spend 600 on him where you can go up a smidge more and, the doors open up a lot. So it'll be definitely a cheeky pod play or a draft pick. I like both of them, but yeah, 600's just, it's sort of on the fence. I really wish you had Jewel, man. If you had a Jewel, I'd be thinking about something potentially, but he has no reason to have it because we made that lock discussion. Why they're all second rowers. And then Lemuelo's lost his. Hey,
no one's got back to me about that. So if you do have an answer, please message the page League of Inches on any social media. If you can find us on any of it, message me, let me know, because it has literally, I've been scratching my head still this week about that, because it does not make sense that locks are second row forwards. They are more of a front row forward than a second row. So please,
you need to write someone a letter, mate, and send it to Supercoach headquarters. Yeah,
Mr. Supercoach, not happy. Mr. Sengstar out there, I know you listening, mate. Get back to me, let me know. Thank you.
Yeah, sure, there's a reason. Lemuelu lost his appeal when he became 550k and lost center. So that's basically it there. Not really too much to dive into too much. It's just, he was very fun for the out of position play, but that was kind of it. I didn't really see anyone playing him at second row last year. They were just plugging him in at the center wing spot. So rolling down the line, man, it's not a lot to look at all, really, is there?
No, there's not.
Very thin position for
I
the
reckon
Dolphins.
just quickly, just fast forward into the playmates, which I was actually just wanting to skim over quickly, but I look upon their stats and every single playmaker bar Max Plath, which is almost a bottom dollar 5/8 for him, has at least 1% ownership, which I'm actually thinking, I'm like, hang on a second. I was expecting to see 0% for pretty much every player here. So Sullivan, 461k halfback. Anthony Milford got the dual 5/8 halfback, 328k, both at 1%. Nicarima, 592k. I remember last year, some parts of the season, he was actually not a bad shout, playing some decent footy, 1% ownership. Isaiah Katoa, after a slow sort of start to his NRL career, looking to probably go to that next step this year at 374k. That's probably the only reason I can see that people are on it, which is at 2% at the moment, his ownership. They're just hoping for that upside and for him to go to another level in his second year. When I group all those together, I know I'm a bit shocked by that. I'm shocked that there are actually percentages on these players.
I see I feel like, you could probably have a bit more percentage on Sean O'Sullivan. I wouldn't be surprised to see that number go up closer to the day, but Milford definitely not. Katoa, I had him all year last year because of how cheap he was, and his position it seemed seemingly nailed last year. So I don't see him losing that, but I don't see any upside. I didn't see any of it last season, and there wasn't really much to look forward to there. But I feel like O'Sullivan could be a decent one, man. I really do. Obviously, he started off quite well. He scored a 59, then a 41 and a 54. So, if you're just going off that alone, there's two scores over 50 something. So there's his value straight off the bat. And then he got that, I think it was a pec injury. And was it pec? It was something. It took him out for a long chunk.
Yeah.
And then he come back, and then it was pretty much straight into it, man. You got a 60 here and there. He got a few high 70s and almost in the 80s. So there was a lot of up, down, up, down, up, down. And I think as far as like a price point goes, 460 is fine for it. Especially if you just want to run with like a Hynes and a cheaper option, but not someone who's so cheap that they're not playable.
Yeah.
I feel like O'Sullivan comes in at that price point where it's like you'd be happy to play him if you needed to. I mentioned it to you as well. If you're going to run that combo, potentially, we'll say Hynes O'Sullivan, the Hynes buy in round 6, like the Dolphins play the Tigers, and I'd be more than happy to play O'Sullivan that week. So little things like that, where you just want to plug that hole and occasionally play them where you need to, you just sort of have to see, providing everything goes well and you don't have to put a fire out and trade someone before then, you have to look at who's covering that position at what time, because, if it was this guy's got a bye, but the guy that I'm filling in is playing the Panthers, like you may as well just play your guy for nothing because you're almost going to get that out of him anyway. So I feel like, at 450, he could potentially be a 600, 650k half towards the back end of the season if he just gets that stretch of games done, because you're going to get the 70s, you're going to get 80s. Shit, I think he might turn up at once or twice throughout the year as well. But you'll just get those lower games. And, I can't complain at 450 for that, considering he's not going to be your play every week. But there is value there for him for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, 1%
And when I
ownership's
say I
very
was
low.
shocked,
Yeah.
just to show everyone I'm a Supercoach whiz, I was shocked because it was so low. I knew this was going to be said, and I knew he was a play, so it should be up about 10%, guys. It's just honestly 1%. Go, guys, go back and get on him. Get on the O'Sullivan train. I love the signing. I'm going to do it myself. Cleary's out.
Yeah.
O'Sullivan's
Look,
in.
man, that's 500K.
Don't tempt me. Come on.
That's nearly 500K. Honestly, that's a lot of coin, dude. You put someone in there who you're like, okay, like it's Cleary too. You can't make that comparison. They're completely different. But that's a astronomical amount of coin you got to play with. And just doing that alone, like I feel like, if you get a 70 out of O'Sullivan at 450, you're going to be wrapped. It's going to be the best thing ever. Where a 70 out of, someone you spent almost $1 million on is going to gut you right down. So, and it could put you in a position too where you've gone from having 4 mid-range center wings to having some quite decent scorers, or even 2 guns and running the other 2. And then that difference of, 30, 40 points, you've already made it up at center with that extra 500K. So it's just something to consider too. For the cheaper options in half, I feel like he's probably one of the best ones. But
he's better than Caesar. I'll give you that.
So. Oh, guaranteed. 100%. And Caesar will kick too. So he's not like, obviously Azarko kicks there. So I just think just the Dolphins have a bit more of a prospect about him. So
he's even more of a play if Asako does get injured, because he'll then take on the goal kicking. So that could be huge. I think if there was a week where, say, Asako, as I say, again, touch wood, we don't want it to happen, but if there was a week where Asako went down and he's down for a bit, I reckon if we looked at the stats, O'Sullivan's ownership would increase that next week, because I reckon a lot of people would start to look at that and get on. So talking about Asako, he's leading the center wing. He's at 783K. He is one of the big dogs this year, not just in the center wing, but in Supercoach, one of the elite players. And you 9% ownership. So there's still a lot of players out there that believe. Are you jumping on to start with? Let me just quickly hang on a second. Picked starting it against the bench. I love this little stat now that I've discovered this one. 98% are picking him to start. There is 2% of you out there. Now, they're probably just the ones that have done your team and gone, I'll fix it up later on. That's fair enough. But 2%, if you're putting that on your bench, go and get some kills, because
I want to see that. I want to see it.
Send your teams through. But obviously, you haven't just got your lineup set yet. But Asako, personally, I can't do it. I can't do it. He had a season of all seasons last year, and if anything, I'm predicting to go down a bit. And then the temptation comes, but yeah, I can't.
Too much for you?
Too much. 783.
Yeah,
I think 9% ownership is too much, especially early on with as you said, freeing up cash. I was expecting that when I just looked at it then to be about the 4-5%.
Okay, so we'll make this comparison. You get Payne Haas for 750, and then you grab any 400K center wing. Say someone 450. I don't know who's in the 450s, but pick one of them. Would you prefer that than having Flegler, for example, and Azarko as an opposite play? Because that's where your coin's spent.
Oh, I'm a bit nervous, to be honest, with Asako, and there's another reason why. And I guess we will talk about it. That's what we're here to do. I'm worried about the Farnworth. Yeah, I'm worried about Herbie coming in, being the main guy there. And then obviously after the Hemmers year last year, last year was the Hemmer and Asako. They were their 2 guys in the back line. But now that they've got Farnworth and they've got Avarillo, I think a lot of people are forgetting Avarillo. I think Avarillo is going to be an absolute gun this year. There is a lot more options to go to now for the Dolphins that I predict quite a few tries to be scored at center, where last year it was always passed off to the wingers to score in the corner, and Asako fed off that. I don't see that happening as much this year, if I'm being honest with it. I think Asako will still have his work rate by his base points and the like. I think he'll still get some tries. Don't get me wrong about that. I'm just worried with the 2-star center signings coming in that some of those tries won't be there.
Yeah, no, it's a fair point, man. They had a lot less talent to work with last year, and it kind of made him shine out a little bit more.
Yeah.
And again, man, like it wasn't like Azarko's been doing this every year too. It was this one year that he just exploded and just, was incredible because he started the season last year at 383K. That's insane. It's so cheap considering what he's come out at now, but yeah, it's wild, isn't it? And then he
Imagine
ends it
being on
as
that.
yeah, pretty much was as soon as you could. But I do expect a bit of a dip there, but it just depends, man. It really depends his role there because it looks like he's going to be that guy, and he scored nearly 100 points so many times last season. So you can't expect that to just disappear out of nowhere. But again, the love has to be shared around a little bit more. Hobie's going to be playing inside him, I'm pretty sure. And he's not going to want to give it all away himself. Like he's got a point to prove too. He's going to a new club, and he's gone there as a bit of a big sign as well. So, yeah, it just depends, man. They could just feed off each other and both go up, but it's got to be one or the other at the end of the day. I like Herbie's price too, 630. It's not too bad.
Well,
It's
we're
just
onto
low
him
enough,
now.
but yeah, it's just the Azarko play. We'll just stay on that for a second. It's like 9% ownership's a lot. You're going off what he did last year, and that's it. Expecting him to do it again, so I can sort of see why people will be getting onto it because he was the second highest point scorer last season. He did it all the time. It's surprising as well. Like there were so many rounds where you almost want to discount it and write it off because you just don't think he's going to get it. And then he'll come out and just do something insane. He scored 100 against Melbourne, scored 114 against the Warriors, and obviously it came. The Panthers game. You can look at that as a reality check, 35. So it's going to happen at some point, but it seemed like he was just all over the shop last year. So I just think too early to go for a near max price center wing with only about a year's worth of stats to look back on when you're going back to it. But yeah, don't be too surprised if it comes out round one, he scored 150 points, and then you just go, yeah, of course he did. Of course. Why wouldn't you? So
I agree. Farnworth, you mentioned, was next. 5% ownership, 632K. Very, very excited about this signing. I'd have him personally at the moment ranked as my number one center in the competition, especially when it's based off form. I think he was an absolute star for the Broncos last year. For some reason, though, I'm just not tempted by him yet because I think, for me anyway, how I'm setting my team up, I want one player around this sort of price tag in my backs to start with. And I've got the guy who's just under that in this team as my guy for that. And I'll explain why for the next one. I've been all over the hammer from the day this opened. But Herbie, like I can understand the 5% there. I'm actually surprised it's him and Nasako's numbers aren't reversed, to be honest. I thought it'd be up around the 9%, especially with the excitement factor as well. Maybe it's just people are scared off because it's the center. If he was given his fullback or something, I think that would go up to like 20%. Yeah, I don't know. It's just something about Farmers. Like I cannot wait to watch him in the rugby league. I can't wait to watch him at the NRL side of things. But for Supercoach, like it's just not. He's not grabbing me.
I'm a fan of him. I think he's going to have a really good season anyway, and I feel like he just doesn't have a bad game. You know what I mean? Like he's got a very, very consistent stat level. You look at him, and basically every game is going to be around that 60 mark. So he'll get there, and he'll have those massive games too. I just don't ever see him doing really bad. He just doesn't seem like that kind of guy that's going to give you a shit game. So, the early buy might be the turn off. I could expect that number to be higher if they didn't have that early buy because you look around at Dom Young's just the next stat above him, and he's 8% owned. Like I see the appeal with him anyway. Roosters is a whole different thing, but Stephen Crichton 5% owned too. I would much rather Herbie Farnworth than Stephen Crichton to start the season. So, yeah, I don't know, man. It just doesn't seem like it doesn't look like an exciting pick on paper. You see a Dolphins, Herbie Farnworth, whatever. so much. But I think he's one of the best centers in the comp. And
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like just playing next to Azarko is going to naturally get that ball over his side a little bit more. And, obviously you've got O'Sullivan going that side too. So I feel like that little group could be a really nice little handy pickup for points there. But I wouldn't mind starting with Herbie, to be fair, man. I've had him in a fair few teams around because, you want to have someone in that 600s. It's just too hard not to get a premium and then have to try and work around it. But then again, like the cash is spread out so fine, you can barely do anything with it. But there's a
I think
few
it's a draft option, a
draft
sneaky
option.
draft option down the line. I think he's
Yeah,
going to go quite late.
yeah. It just depends on
So
how
our
fast you want
draft
to
boys
stack your.
listening, don't touch him.
Yeah, first rounder. No, it just depends on how fast people want to fill their center wings up. Because he'd be a great draft pick, man. You're going to get a very, very solid point score out of him every single week, and I don't feel like you could probably rely on him too, to get you that 50, 60 at the very least, and that's a good thing. But hopefully more, potentially more anyway. But yeah, I'm on for Herbie. I think if you got Herbie in your team, you stick with it and you're happy with it, and you just make sure you've got someone to cover him in round 3 that's not Bostock, because he seems like he's a good value too. But that's the thing, you could lose both.
Yeah. Look, I mentioned him already. MSO Tabuai Fido, aka the Hammer, 600.9k, center wing and fullback dual, 10% ownership. I am one of those 10%, and I've been in that 10% since day dot of 2024 Supercoach. I'm all over him. Look, there's no Supercoach way to say it. It's a gut. It's my gut feel for the Hammer. Here's my gut feel of 2024 that I will not start this year without him. I know there's the early buy to contend with. I'm happy to ride the wave with that. I just see Hammer this year with the amount of spark and talent in this back line being that player where back on the inside, it's the Hammer every time. It's just draw the fullback, pop it to the Hammer, off he goes, and you're not going to catch him. He scores the try. So no one can say a thing to get me away from the Hammer. I know that he's not the fancy option. I know he's not the best option out there. I just think, especially early on, I can see him getting me some cash, getting me some good points, and possibly being the difference. Because even at 10% so far, I think he's obviously not as high up owned as some teams. And I love you, Hammer. He's my boy this year.
Do you hear that, Hammer? So he's your biggest fan. I don't see him making cash. That's one thing I'll probably say there. I reckon he goes down in price. I think he's a very try-dependent sort of fullback, and if he doesn't get any attacking stats, he's going to score you 30. With attacking stats, he'll get you the 60 that he's priced at, and occasionally a couple
He's getting
more.
me hundreds.
But I think he only got 100 once last year.
We're not living in the past year, mate.
No, I know. No, you got to look forward.
Year of the Finn.
That's right. Yeah, they're going to be a better team anyway too. Like you got to get past that first season, and they're very impressive for a first season too. So you just naturally expect them to do a bit more. So yeah, I expect I expect the same out of Hammer. I expect more out of some others, but I just feel like you're sort of going to get the same out of him, and it's not a bad same. It's just you're just going to have to bank on those tries, and there's a good chance he does
as well.
something.
Last year was his first full year at fullback. He was not a fullback. He was a winger before that, and he was touted to be a center. He obviously plays center for the Maroons. That's big. Obviously, he didn't end up finishing the year at fullback. I think Wayne Bennett kept toying with him at center for the last few games to maybe just ease him out of the year because they were out of the finals race. But yeah, I love to have a couple of fullbacks when I can in that center position as well. That's always been a go-to play for me. So yeah, I know you can say all what you want, Jesse, but
fair enough. But I can see why his ownership's double what Herbie's is, and it's because he's the fullback. You know what I mean? He's the fullback against the center, and you're always going to back the fullback to score more than a center will. But I just feel like, when it comes to the game side of things, we'll just have to see how that new backline goes, man, because it's almost entirely different. they're going to put Bostock out on the wing. You're going to have Averillo inside him. And that Bostock thing might not stick either. It could be back to Tessie New, but who knows? And then you're going to have Herbie and then Azarko down the other end. So he's got talent literally either way. He can go left or right. He's going to have some outlet there for him. So, you could say it goes up too. I don't see his value really spiking too much higher. It just really have to see how the team kicks off and starts performing with these new guys in there. Because, the Jewel is nice. His price 600. As far as the other 600Kers go, you'd be pretty happy to play him every week. But I just think you're going to get that exact thing out of him. So there's not much to deviate. But if you love him, man, and you're all over him, help yourself. Get him. Get two of him.
Thank you.
That's all right.
It's like an all-you-can-eat buffet. I'll be going
all you can
in
eat
with the hammer. Ewan Aiken next for 579, 0% ownership. I can totally understand that. Valence Tafare, obviously got sent to shamefully sent off to fat camp by Wayne Bennett. Come back and he does look fit. I'll give him credit, but just with the signings at the moment, I'm not sure where he fits in, especially early on with a starting spot. I've even heard rumors that he could be like a impact forward sort of thing off the bench. I'm not too sure, but even that, I can't see him getting points that warrants that 499K. So at the moment for me, I think 1% is too much. Then that's where he's sitting at with the ownership percentage. The next player though does tempt me. I don't know why, but just recently, Jake Averillo, center wing / fullback dual, 488K. There's 9% ownership for him at the moment. So there is some, I think it's because the price tag is almost 200K cheaper than say Farnworth and the like. And he's a sneaky signing, as I've just said before, when it comes to the Dolphins and an overall NRL signing for this year. I really do like this signing. As I said, last day or two, I'm starting to get a little bit tempted by Averillo.
Yeah. No, I don't
even know why.
I don't hate it, man. It's not a bad price too, and that's the thing. Like you look down in the sub 500 center wings, and there's not a great deal to pick from, especially none that are going to get out there and actually even play the game, let alone score well.
I think
he's been
a good
very,
early
very
play.
Yeah, I think so.
Because of their draw, to then go
Yeah.
up to one of those big level players, that gap, as we've talked about in the past, will become smaller, and you can go like your Averillo up to say your Marzu or something for only 150 or something, hopefully. So
hopefully it's a big gap to close at the moment. You're talking almost 300 off that move, but he could. I don't really know, to be fair, man. I don't really know what his upside's going to look like. He's been very, very hot and cold for a long time, but you can also put that down to where he was playing, and even the position he was playing. It's been chopped and changed so much with him, going from centers or in the back line into a fullback spot, or like he's just been everywhere. So I feel like a move under Bennett, a bit more consistency, a bit more, this is going to be your role and this is what you're going to do, might actually suit him really well. Because you saw those games that he had last year where he did really, really well. And he strung a few of them together too, like high 70s pluses. And then obviously he'd come back and he'd shit the bed completely and score like 20 points. And you're thinking, how do you bank on that? Like you're going to get 80 or 20, like that swing's so far apart. It's not a Herbie, you know what I mean? Where Herbie's going to do 60, 60, 60, and then an 80. This guy's going to give you the ups and the downs and really, really low downs, but different team, more downs with that team. So it's a pretty decent little pick if you've got the players for it. But again, like as far as Dolphins players go, I don't really have him in the top 5. And if I was going to play him, he would have to be after, you're getting through the line. And there's a couple others that I would prefer. And, you don't want to get caught up having too many because of the early buy again. So maybe down the line, he's worth a look in. And if he looks really impressive and the Dolphins, pick their feet up and they start to see a bit of consistency and you're thinking, okay, they've got something going on here. It might even be worth just moving that trade over. But 488 is not cheap.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not like he's 300K and you can throw him in there. Like you're putting him at 488. He's probably the second or third center in your starting lineup at that price. So you got to be pretty confident about it.
Taylor Nay, that's similar. That is
exactly.
So
yeah.
Tessie New York and Benitesi new, as he likes to be called now, 470K, 0%. Understand why? No, thank you. Edric Lee is still going. Shout out to big Edric,
Jesus, chipping away.
0% ownership. I thought he actually went to Super League, but he hasn't. Next one, I know you've started to be hot on this guy, and I think there's been some news recently around him potentially being a starter in this back line. I don't think New did enough last year to warrant getting an automatic selection, so there's definitely that wing spot available. Jack Bostock, 19%, 314.5K, so he's not bottom dollar, but I think he's cheap enough to make work if he does get that starting wing spot. Points per minute at the moment is a slight concern for me, 0.5 points per minute. But hey, if he gets that starting wing spot, I think that'll go up. The points per minute will go up. I like the play, but again, it's a big if. It's a watch. It's a wait for Team List Tuesday, and if he's there round one, we obviously all jump on.
Yeah, I think if he's named, you just get him. Obviously, you can't really look at his points per minute and his previous scores because he hasn't really got much reference to go off. So you're kind of just running off the new prospect of him potentially being something good. But the guy's huge, man. He's like 2 meters tall. He's got every chance to succeed in that team. There's all this opportunity there for him, and if he can make it stick, then for 315, it's like, who else have you got? Really, like anyone below 315 or anyone below 300, there's no one that's nailed. There's no one that's certain. And I feel like if he at least just gets that spot there, out of all the other guys that you got to contend with, he'll probably be the best one to pick out of. And that's kind of the only reason, is because there's no actual clear-cut, solid, definite cheapies at center wing at the moment. And he looks like he will be. I've seen so many words coming out about him. Just he will be outside Averillo to start the season. That's pretty much black and white. So, if that's the case and you come team list and he's exactly where everyone said he is, I just don't see any reason to not have him if you need that cheap center. And, you can go down 60, 70K and get a non-playing center wing who looks like they might be well because they got really high ownership. But there's a good chance he makes 60, 70K in a week. He comes out with this negative 80 break even. You're thinking, now everyone's want to get on him, and there's your trade where you sort of find it. But it's just a wait to see team list, man. That's kind of all it is with him. And if he's in there, I feel like I'm going to have him at that point. I don't think there's any reason not to.
No, I agree. The last position for the Dolphins was fullback. We've already covered all the players because they are dual as well. So that's pretty much it on the Dolphins. We've covered all the pending questions as well from viewers and the like. Again, pretty much the only cheapie, we literally just spoke about him. Bostock, I think, is the ideal cheapie there for the Dolphins, but it's just about a wait and see for Team List Tuesday. And hopefully Mr. Wayne Bennett is nice to us and does provide that, because it's always nice to have a cheapie option for some of these teams that we think are going to be fighting for that sort of top 8 spot.
I feel like O'Sullivan could be called a cheapie too, considering the other options at half. So outside of them, there's not a great deal. You're looking after that, Flegler, Averillo. Like, they've got so many options, man. They really do. And that's why you can't really get caught out having
in a way that I feel like if you're getting Bostock, if he does get named, O'Sullivan comes into it even more, because, as you said, with the height factor, and we've seen it with a couple of games he played last year, that crossfield kick is going to be done by O'Sullivan. So that's a try assist. So that's some points
quite an easy one
for O'Sullivan. That could be a decent little combination that we look out for there, which hasn't really been talked about, but that's definitely an option. So that's it for the Dolphins. Let's go into the next slide, the Newcastle Knights. And we're starting at fullback. A huge talking point. We'll probably spend half of this Knights segment talking on just Kalen Ponga and what to do. So 892.8K fullback only this year. No 5'8" dual, which was a huge plus last year. I think it's really hurt the 5'8" position and made someone like Dylan Brown even more of a must-have in my eyes. 34% ownership at the moment for Ponga. To be honest with you, I can see that going higher as we get closer to the season starts. Everyone knows who has listened or watched our videos or listened to our podcast so far. I didn't actually originally start with Ponga. I've come around to Ponga the last few weeks purely off the fact that there's so much unknown with a lot of the other players that are priced under him. In that next probably 3 to 6 or 7 players below him. And I know Ponga can do it, and he has done it quite frequently the back half of last year. The Knights have a decent run out of the top 8 sides, probably the more friendlier run out of the rest of the 8 sides. That's another +4 Ponga. So I think he's in the top 5 must-haves for 2024. What about you?
Yeah, I think so too. I'm not even going to take the risk and not start him you just got to have him, I feel like. And then obviously you put yourself in a good position to go to anyone else, and that's not a problem. But I think, yeah, if you try and go against the grain and go, oh, Ponga, concussion, this and that, and then all of a sudden Ponga comes out and scores 160 points, which, there's every chance he does against the Raiders, you're going to want him in immediately, and you're not going to think twice about it. You're going to rip your team to shreds trying to get him in. So, yeah, I don't think there's a world where I don't start with Ponga this year.
And
I
you
think
mentioned it quickly before I forget. The first 5 games, I've got it done. The Raiders, as you said, round 1. The Cowboys, round 2. The Melbourne Storm, round 3. The Warriors, round 4. And also, the Warriors, round 4. And then the Dragons in round 5. So, again, I said it was an easier draw. Like, you look at the top 8, it's pretty much all hard draws. So that is quite a friendly draw considering.
Yeah, well, he's got the best draw out of everyone else. We've gone over the Broncos and the Panthers, and barring the Sharks and Eels and the Storm too, they get hammered. So barring those other guys, there's no other option. You know what I mean? Like, you can get onto the Walshes and stuff, but I feel like where the fixtures come in, Ponga just has way too much value. And obviously you're not getting him for any other reason besides, scoring 100+ points every week, fingers crossed. That's pretty much it. But it's a shame he doesn't have the dual 5'8" anymore, but I can see why he doesn't, because that kind of would have broken Supercoach a little bit. If you could have Ponga and 2 fullbacks as well. So, that would have been insane to have. But yeah, I just think, it's a lot of it's a lot of money. 892, it's very hard to have him and a couple other guns without really taking a sledgehammer to your side and just destroying it, because you go down. But then again, man, like we've talked about it plenty of times before, where you just have to go down 100K to a point where it's not worth it anymore to not have him. Because you go down, like there's the one below him, Scott Drinkwater's 40K less, who I think is a great play to start as well, with the Cowboys run. So it's just, is it worth the extra 40 for what could be considered, consistency? Like, I feel like he's got to be the guy. And if he's not, then you can go to anyone. But you just have to sort of make that call. But I wouldn't want to get off him that early. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be doing that.
You're watching nervously.
Yeah. Well, the only thing I got to worry about with him is injury.
Yeah.
But he seemed to really come out of it last year, and I'm like, you look at him now too, and he seems so focused on it. So, there's a good chance he does better this year than last year.
He looks so fit, and his mind frame from the interview he said the other day, where he goes, he wants to be back in that Maroon side this year. Where last year it was all, I just want to make sure I'm healthy and I'm all there footy wise. Where I feel like this year he's turned the page a bit. He's gone, I know where I need to be as a player. I'm there. It's time to go back to that next level and just put everything on the line to make sure I get that jersey back. And I think for a Supercoach perspective, yes, that means we're going to lose him throughout the middle part of the season. It's going to be a pain in the ass, but I look at that and I lick my lips and go, I cannot wait to see what he produces early on then, because I think it's going to be, look at me, Reece Walsh. This is what I can do. Can you do this at a consistent level? And we've already seen there's stuff coming out. I've got a post coming out tomorrow about it as well, or today, but when people listen to this, there's a massive argument already going on about, and we haven't even got into the footy season with Origin and that fullback spot. Both Walsh and Ponga will be going at it week to week. They'll talk about it. They'll say the cliches, but I love the fact that Ponga has come out and not said the cliche and said, no, I want my jersey. I want it this year. I can't
Yeah.
wait. I cannot wait to watch Kalen Ponga this year, and that's why I feel like even more so now after I watched that interview, he's just a must have. The blonde hair's out. Keep the blonde hair, by the way, Kalen, for the season. I love seeing it. You have to make
Yeah.
it work. I'm sorry if that means, and this is what happened with me. I went to Ponga, and it meant I didn't have Payne Haas in my team, and I can warrant that. I'm actually comfortable with that. So
Yeah.
just make it happen,
Oh,
guys.
easily, man. Easily. Like, you're not going to get that sort of point of anyone in the front row. So if you're really splurging the cash there and you don't have Ponga, um, there's a really good chance that Ponga in one game will outscore both of your front rowers pretty comfortably.
Yes.
And maybe even the reserve ship that you've put on him too. Like maybe even all four of them. Ponga can outscore all four of them on a good week. And not having him
Yes.
to
And
have, two solid front rowers is going to really hurt big time. So yeah, man, he just had so many monster games. Like you're looking at like towards the last 8-10 games of the year, he was averaging over 100 comfortably, like averaging
yeah.
100, 120. Like thinking that's insane. And there was 180 in there too. So yeah, you gotta do it, man. And I feel like, players like
And
Tommy Turbo are the same. I'm really struggling to not, have a team with the two of them because both of them have that kind of upside. But I reckon he gets that jersey back off Walsh, as much as a lot of people
so do
think
I.
it's Walsh's, and you can stir some pots there, and everyone listening,
Our,
take your
our
pick. But
chat will go off after listening to this because we've already
I
been
think
talking
so.
about it and it's been a hot discussion today. But
Yeah,
I agree. We haven't even mentioned the captaincy option either. I think he's almost
clear cut
a
every week.
must captain, for the first couple of weeks at least. And then he's a discussion with probably him or Hynes. It's basically
Yeah.
him or Hynes for mine for the first 5 to 6, 7 weeks. Like that's
Hmm.
why I've got either of those as my first two must have options for this year. Um,
Yep.
is
I'm
there
the
much
same.
else to say on Ponga? Because I just feel like we're so in the Ponga thing that there's not even, like as you said, the concern is his health, but he seems to be on top of that, and the Knights seem to
Yeah,
be on top of it.
I'm not
We're not going to
concerned at all.
entertain.
Hey.
No, there's no entertainment of him going back to 5'8", which is great for us
Yep.
as well. Look, Marju's gone, which okay, that could be maybe a little bit of a concern in terms of try assist because he did like to go that side. Um, but still, it's Ponga. Like I know he'll come up with something. He will fix his game to just come up with another way of going about it, and he'll clone someone to be Marju, like not Marju to be Dom Young. Sorry, I should be saying. So
Yeah, I almost had me a bit
it's
confused there. I was like, what have I
yeah,
missed?
no, my bad, it was
Yeah.
Dom Young. But and then Marju, there's now talk that he needs to go back over to Marju's side more now. But yeah, there's not much concern at all for mine. As you said,
Nah,
it's only
man.
the health thing. But if he is to be out, he's an easy way to downgrade to someone else because he's that top tier player.
Yeah, it just gives you such a safety net to worry about. But like as far as it goes, when you start talking must-haves and who do you need to start with, and it's still too early to have anyone as a must-have, in my opinion. But if you're going to go two, it's Ponga and Hynes to start with. And I just don't think there's any reason not to. I think you just put it in your team first, and then you just start working around them and just start filling in the holes outside of that. But you just have to have, like, they're both on their day the best captaincy options you're going to have, at the moment. And obviously, you can only look at Ponga for the last year because the years before that had all that other stuff to worry about. And you're thinking, you're going to just run off one season. But I just see, I can't see it stopping. You know what I mean? Like, it's in full motion now. And he just seems like he's so centered and everything seems to be right for him. So, yeah, lock it in. Can't go
Yeah,
wrong.
no, I agree. Any of fullback options for the Knights as Will Price as well has come over from the Super League. 45K. We just have no idea what to expect from him. So for mine,
Mm,
he's not an option. Especially if he's only a fullback, he's not going to get in there over Ponga. We need to wait for a
no
Ponga
chance.
injury to think about it. Who knows if he becomes a winger? Maybe could be if he gets the duel as well, could be an option on that wing in replace of Dom Young, but we'll find out. And the other two, no interest for mine. Marju is the next guy to talk about. 5% ownership for the center wings. 789.2K. Another one of those real high money, high dog rollers, basically. I don't know. Again, I know what he's
Yeah.
capable of, and it scares the shit out of me not having him. I just can't start with that.
It's a lot. Like you can justify it with Ponga, and it's a different position.
Yep.
You know, fullback. You know, you get him in there. It's your fullback. You got two of them. You pick the best one. You've got 7 center wings to fill in there, and having someone who's nearly 800k, you basically have nothing left. There's just nothing. I won't start with him, I think, this year. But again, man, I don't see him dipping if he continues to do what Ponga does. And if Ponga's there feeding him, like, what's to say that he ever does go down? There's a reason he got to that price last year, and it was because he kept scoring freaking 100 points. So,
Yeah.
like, I reap the benefits of it. I had him many times, but again, you're getting him peak. Like, I think he's the dearest center wing in the game at the moment. So you're sort of just hoping for a dip there, which might never come. So he might just be that premium you get onto at some point because you want to ride it out. But again, the best time to have him is to start. So because you want to take advantage of those fixtures, and it's just how do you make the team look good with Ponga, him, Hynes, these other guys? You just can't have them all. So I feel like if someone's got to make the cut, I think you just got to go down from Marzu to someone attainable. But yeah, if you're one of the 5% that have him, like, you're gone all in.
Good luck.
Big time.
I like your
Yeah.
balls. Your big
Big
balls.
time. Yeah. Huge balls.
The
I
next
feel
player
like
down,
Jenkins could be a decent too, though. So
Yeah. I 602K for Tom Jenkins though. That's a lot.
yeah, it's a lot to pay for so much unknown. But if he takes off Dom Young's spot, which is expected, you saw what Young did last year with it. But he's a very athletic, tall winger. I don't know what Jenkins's frame is, but that back line last year was so red hot, man. Like, you got all of them. Like, you can put Best in there at 60, fair enough, but all of them were hitting 60, 70s minimum every week almost. So I was like, you just put someone new in there. Fingers crossed they pick up where the other one left off. But yeah, it's not a bad way to get into that back line for that price, considering how lethal they were last year. But it just depends if they can keep it going. But yeah,
Quick
no, sorry,
trivia
back
for
to
you.
Gago. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, who do you think was the most underrated Supercoach player of 2023?
Yeah. Well, when we did our team of the years, I think it was the first video that we made, was I had Dan Gagai in my team of the year center wing, and with Nin now nothing, no ownership, because he just continued to do this unbelievable job every week. And it was almost unbelievable.
72.4 average.
Yeah,
Holy shit.
he just kept going, man. Every single week was like a 70 or an 80 and 70 and 80. And it was just the same every single week, 70 to 80 points. And you're thinking, fucking hell, should I just get him in? Surely this can't keep going. And he did it the whole season. I thought, for consistency, there's no one better last year than that. So it didn't have those massive games that Marzu had, but he didn't drop as low as Marzu did either. So for his floor, but yeah, I'm not about that for 740 again. I'm still not going to do it.
I don't even think his center counterpart, Bradman Best, for mine, 3% ownership, 614.8K. I just can't go there for that sort of price for Bradman Best. I know. I love him as a player. I love the form he's in. I think he's gonna battle for his to keep his Blues jersey next year if both Turbo and Latrell are fit. He'll be in for a massive start to the year to keep that jersey. I don't know. He just doesn't really stick out to me as a player. Like, I need to get into my Supercoach team to start with.
No, not really. And then, like, you got to think too. Like, if you've got Ponga, there's got to be someone else there scoring points too. Like, it can't always be him. He's going to be feeding someone. And there's some good options there for him to be, pairing up with and getting these points. And you just think naturally, if Ponga's going to be scoring 100 plus, these guys are going to be doing it too. Maybe not 100, but maybe they're going to be pushing the 70s and 80s like last year. So it is worthy of getting him and, getting him for that play as well, because I can't see him getting left behind while Ponga does what we expect him to do. So it is a lot of coin to spend, and to have a double up of the Knights at the same time, you're thinking Ponga's the one, but you might get the other guy wrong, and you don't want to you don't want to be spending, 790 on Marzu if Jenkins is doing what he was doing last season and they've just decided to swap, or for whatever reason, man. But I feel like they are quite dear, and for how much coin there is, like that you barely have left to spread after all those guys, it just makes sense to not have any of them for the time being and just hope they go down. Again, I don't see a massive dip in any of them, but probably Best, actually, I would say, has the most chance, or even Gagai, actually, because Gagai's break evens would be really high.
Yeah.
So there's probably a good chance that he does, tank a little if he does continue what he did last year. But it's very, very situational. But you're just banking on them being as lethal as they were last year, because they weren't to start.
No.
They sort of, they found their form. So.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
The next person that has actually been spoken about a little bit is that Dylan Lucas. 502K, 6% ownership. So there is a bit of interest about him. I'm actually a bit unsure about this one. I don't think he's as popular as being made out to be, especially now we've got the news about Pierce Paul being back sooner than we thought. I think before that, he may have been a bit more of an option, but now I think that's pushed him back, where I don't think he'll get the minutes that he needs to warrant that price tag.
Yeah, if Pierce Paul gets that spot, it looks like they got him there for that reason to play second row. It's obviously Dylan Lucas filled in last year, so you'd kind of be banking on him. Yeah, he is dual, and that's where his 6% is. I don't really see the 6% actually in the second rowers, because there is a lot better options for actual 80-minute game time every week below 500. But not as much in the 500s for center wing. So you definitely be thinking they're playing him there. But you kind of would want, I can't see it being a long-term play anyway. He had a good base and, very consistent run when he was playing there. And he had a massive game too. I think he scored, it was very, very late. Like, he had a few here and then it took a big stint and he played the last 2 games. But they were very good games. He didn't really make any problems and no errors. He was just very, very consistent, solid. He did his work and he scored almost 100 points in one of them. So, he can do it. But now that Pierce Paul looks like he's back from trials and, there's a good chance that he starts round 1, I just don't see Lucas getting that edge position anymore. He might just be coming off the bench, and for 500, it's just too dear.
Yeah, I agree. And when we talk about that, the other last player I want to talk about when it comes to center wings, Jed Cartwright. Again, the dual, the second row forward and the center wing, 238K, 22% ownership. I think that's because of the price tag. He is a much cheaper option when it comes to that. I think he's guaranteed to play most games, but it's just about probably most of those will be off the bench. We don't know about the minutes. But for 238K, he's currently in my team because it's not much risk involved. No, as I said, I do think he'll see game time, and I don't think there's going to be a huge cash increase, anything like that. But I'm happy to have him there to see what happens with him.
Yeah, it's low risk, man. 230K, it's just, whatever. What's going to happen?
Yeah.
If you, I expect him to play as well off the bench. He might get that 20, 30 minutes here and there. And, there's a good chance that in those games, he might even score a try and then have this really high, break even sort of changeover price and go up and spike a bit and get you into that 300s, close to maybe even 400 potentially, if he gets a bit more of that role. So I feel like if that happens, you get off him. And you kind of just, cash out and, take it to the bank. But it's low risk, man. You can't really complain about it. If there's a chance that he gets in a starting spot even once, it's always going to help get that bump in cash just for that small window while his break evens have adjusted a little bit. So there's not a lot of excitement at 238K. It's a very basement price just above it. So you've got him, Strange. Euro's a little bit cheaper. So, you can see where the high ownership is. They're just trying to fill those last 2 or 3 spots on the bench. So, it's fine. You can even play him in second row too. That's the thing. So you've got that flexibility with him, which is very handy.
Yeah, no, I agree. 5/8 options. I want to leave Crossland when we get to the hookers and chat about him and Brayley together because I think there's actually some interesting talking points there. Tyson Gamble for my 1% ownership, 487K. He's just not an option.
No.
He's not even one of the second choice 5/8. I don't think it should be anywhere near that. So 1% is even too much. Halfback, Hastings 510K. Jack Cogger 463K, both 1% ownership. It'd be interesting to see what the Knights do this year when it comes to just this playmaking options. Obviously, 3 can't go into 2. We've seen Cogger's grand final performance. I think it was one of the big. Obviously, Cleary was sensational, but the way Cogger played freed up Cleary to do what he can do. And I think we talk about Ponga. I think Ponga no doubt had a fantastic year last year. Seen him get to a level that we haven't seen before, but I think there's still more to come from Ponga, as we've just spoken about. And I think Cogger would be a perfect player to help get Ponga to another level as he can free him up a bit like he did with Cleary. So I think Cogger's going to get a spot. I just don't know if it's going to be at the halfback or the 5/8 and who it kicks out. So
I would say
I don't think he's a play.
Misses. Yeah.
I don't think either of these are a play. I don't think they're a play Supercoach wise. But I just think that's an interesting quick talking point from an NRL point of view.
Yeah, I don't know about a play. Yeah, that's the thing too. You know what I mean? But you can kind of compare like Cogger to O'Sullivan in a way if he gets the start. You know what I mean? Like they're just shy off that top group. Obviously, Hastings is at that sort of price point where you'd almost consider him someone that you'd never go against the Cleary Hynes discussion of your starting half. Like it's got to be one of the two, and you just got to have that other guy. And it's like 500 is not a bad price to pivot off. And you've got like Fogarty around the similar price point. You got Walker for a bit more, Sam Walker, O'Sullivan for a bit less. So there's a fair few that float around that sort of mid bracket between 4 and 5. You know, closing up on the 600s, where they can kind of do a very similar thing. I think you're probably going to get some safety out of Hastings. I don't think it's too exciting there, but I just don't. It's just nothing too special. But again, like if he's got Cogger next to him, and you know, it's kind of opens him up a little bit to do a bit more. There's a chance he could do more, but still, I'm not in love with the play. So I don't know if it's worth spending too much time talking about it. It's just, yeah, then they're not bad priced for a pair of halves. You know what I mean? 450 and 500. But I just think there's just a lot of options at the same time. So where does he fall in? Yeah, he's just below Fogarty and above Tanner Boyd. Yeah, it's a tricky spot too, because if you had left that half spot free and you did your whole team around it and you built it and you pretty much just locked in, you said, I've fallen in with 500K for my second half. Like, is it Hastings or Cogger that you're going to put in there? I'd be very surprised if it was. Not to say that there's many other, you know, glaring options at that same price, but I don't know. I don't really know. I wouldn't start with either of them, and I'd be hard pressed to trade any of them in at some point either. So, yeah, I'm not too sure when it comes to their halves, man. But you got to think, like, you know, if the team get rolling, someone's got to have potential. So,
you know what you're getting famous for on this podcast? That the quote of there's not really any point in spending too much time on this and then spending too much time on this.
Yeah, I do that a lot, man.
I love it. I think you're going to be famous. You're going to be famous. No, I'm not. I'll never air horn you. You're famous for this now. And just guys, if you ever, just from now on, let's just as a token rule for the League of Interest family, when we hear Jesse say it's just not worth spending enough time on this, start timing it and then just let us know throughout the episode how much time Jesse spent talking about stuff that wasn't worth spending the time on. Second row forwards.
Probably not that long.
Did you have a comeback?
That took you to explain.
Yeah, sorry. Second row forwards, we start off with, I think, 2 pods. And we're talking pods already. 2% and 1% ownership. Tyson Frizzell, there's rumours that he goes over, I think, to the left side, which is the more predominant side for the man pictured Kalen Ponga that he likes to attack for, which would then mean for mine a bit more attacking stats for Frizzell. I do also think, though, Frizzell might come with a few less minutes this year. I think they might be starting to try and just get quality out of him, not quantity. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think that's a new thing we need to look out for in Supercoach is a lot of these players playing quality minutes over the quantity. And Adam Elliott for mine, 517K, 1%. If he can get enough, like if he can get
It's a
enough
bit sneaky, though.
time, I think if he's starting lock, I don't mind him.
Yeah,
I don't
I don't
again,
mind it
if he
either,
was
man.
if he was front row forward, we won't get into that argument again. I'd probably
Yeah,
be even more keen on him.
yeah, yeah. You're not wrong with that one, man. If he was in the front rows, like it kind of just puts that really handy, healthy spot in the 500s there, which they're lacking. But yeah, I feel like Elliott's very just sort of, glazed over too, like 1% ownership. And I don't really see why, to be fair. I feel like he's probably got maybe 5 to 10 points of upside, at the very least kind of thing. So, for whatever reason, he's just not getting a look in. Maybe Leash is the one running the pods and he's still slandering his name. So, going back a little bit there, I don't know. It's not an exciting play. If he gets that lock, he scores his 60 whatever points. Like, it's not a bad thing, man. He doesn't have a great deal of ceiling upside, but it's very consistent at least. So, yeah, very surprising ownership's at 1%. But same as
No, I
Frizzell,
don't mind it.
2%.
Yeah.
Not too much there.
Dylan Lucas, we've already spoken about. Kai Pearce-Paul, the man that's hot in the news at the moment, 5% ownership now. I think because the news has come out that he is a chance to play from round one. The injury, I think it was the toe injury or something that he isn't as serious as first thought. And he's only 345K, so he jumps into that mid-tier to cheap tier category that there is an absolute truckload of players to choose from. It's just about, as I keep saying about this, got to choose the right ones, and we're all going to be scarred by a few. We're all going to claim we've won the lotto with a few as well. So is he in that bracket? I don't know which one he'll go for, but again, coming over from Super League, we've seen it happen, and it's a good thing. We've seen him come over, and it doesn't quite work. There is it's a big gamble, but in saying that, it's also not a lot of cash to play with to gamble with either. So I don't know. If he starts, I'm probably leaning towards picking him.
Yeah, I think so. A starting second role, whether he gets 60 or 80 minutes or whatever his role looks like it's going to be, you'd imagine he scores more than 35 points and goes up in cash. So that's kind of the play that you would be. But yeah, there's three 350K second roles that I'm pretty run with all three. I might drop one of them off and go down. But yeah, between Pearce-Paul, Tallis Duncan, and potentially Morgan Smithies, like there's a few guys in there that look like they've got a fair bit of value coming in. So yeah, I was, early days a few weeks ago anyway, you'd be saying Pearce-Paul was going to miss the first round, potentially a couple, and Dylan Lucas or Jed Cartwright look like they're getting a look, but it looks like he's actually going to be back for it more than likely. So if he's going to be around for the trials, and we can at least get an idea of how he's going to play, because I don't have a clue, to be honest with you. I don't know how his Supercoach points over in the Super League translated too hard over out this side, and whether or not he's even going to be a relevant player or not. Like, I wouldn't have a clue. But for the price and, for what you would expect any second rower that plays 80 minutes or thereabouts to do, you would think they score more than what he's priced at. So just off that, I think the value is there for it. But yeah, just have to keep an eye out and see what he looks like in trials. And, if he's looking pretty good, and then, all the commentators are going on about him and everyone's pretty fresh on Pearce-Paul, yeah, definitely. I don't think it's a bad pick to start with at all.
Yeah, no, I don't mind it. The next couple of players on in the options, Matt Croker for 328K, 2% ownership. Jack Hetherington, 267. Again, has a few people keen. 6% just never seems to become a real sort of super coach option, even for his price tag. Just never seems to sort of hit the mark. Just more of an annoyance more than anything. Both players,
looking at his
I can
head.
both players I can sort of put into the category of just too much uncertainty, even for a cheaper sort of option. I just don't know what roles they'll both play. They're both sort of watch the first couple of weeks, see what's happening, and then I feel like the Knights have, when we're looking at this, especially the second row list, there's quite a few options, and they just all can't get 80 minutes, unfortunately. So there's going to be some players that just write themselves off from a Supercoach point of view, purely off the fact they're not going to play the minutes that are needed to do. And I'll throw Brodie Jones into that category at 238K as well. Anything final to say about that list, or pretty much the same?
No, not really, man. Pretty much that. There's nothing out there that's too outlandish besides, what might Pierce Paul do. That's something to keep an eye on. But very surprised with Adam Elliott's 1%. That's still got me a little bit like, might be worthy of a little pod play. Pretty decent.
Yeah. No, I do agree. Prop for front row forwards, Safidi 486K. There's 1% that are going after him. Leo Thompson, front row forward, 458K, 2% ownership. Leo Thompson is a temptation.
Yeah,
I just looked at him then, and I just realized, hang on a second, I said it
a couple of weeks ago too.
As a second
talking
option.
about it. Yeah, I had him in my team, actually. I think it was one of the first teams I made. I put Leo Thompson in there because I think it's probably going to be his best year that he's had up to date. And he's at a nice price, 458. I think I was running with Thompson and Totola as the two of my cheaper options. Which one do I partner with Haas at the time when I was trying to build that team around? But now that I'm thinking I might move away from that, I've started to bring him back into the play of it a little bit. So maybe even both of them, because again, you do want to get on that Knights draw for the start too, because it is quite good. And at 458K, he's just got no downside, I'd say, because he hasn't really ever scored too low.
No.
Very consistent.
And he should get more minutes.
Yeah.
I think he's one player, even though there's a lot of options here, he'll get more options because he's improving. He's still quite young, very young. I think his brother's signed for him for next year as well. So he's there for the future. He wants to be there. So he's just one player that I see that there's plenty of upside, even as a forward in this Newcastle lineup. I think he'll get increased minutes. His points per minute is pretty good. I'm just quickly bringing that up now. Yeah, 0.9. His points per minute. So he does his work. 44 average 0.9 average of last year. I think that can go up slightly as well. And I'm happy to sit in there and just keep getting me around that 50 mark each and every week, as you said. So I'm actually, I'm tempted to that Leo Thompson.
Yeah. I'm very tempted with Thompson as well, man. Honestly, I have been looking at plenty of teams around him anyway, but I just think if he gets that role and it increases 10 minutes, it's not like it's a big jump 10 minutes if he can do a bit with it. But that can put him into that mid 50s bracket pretty consistently, because his points per minute are quite good for how much he plays out there. And you're not going to get the tries out of him. It's never going to happen, but his base is really good, and you don't see a lot of ups and downs. You kind of see him just get out there. If he plays 45 minutes, he'll get 45 points. So naturally with that, you just think, hopefully, if you can bump it up to 50, 55, that's a really fun play, because I don't think a lot of people are going to be on him. And I don't expect a lot of people to get on him too if he starts performing well. I think he's just going to be that guy you see in the list there thinking, oh, he's actually doing okay, but I'm not going to trade for him. I don't see a lot of people getting on the Thompson train. So could be good, man. It really could be. I just don't see downside for him. Same as how I feel about Totola too. They're almost in the exact same discussion with each other, and they're both very similar prices. So
yeah. No, I agree there, and I think that's pretty much it, because it's talking about pretty much every other option. They're a jewel there as well. Hooker is where the final discussion comes into it with the Newcastle Knights. And the main point I want to go here is obviously Jaden Brayley as a cheapie at 330K, 41% ownership. I think that has to be one of the highest owned players in Supercoach at the moment. I can't bring that stat up at the moment. I can't look at that, but he'd be in the top 5 at least. So,
I reckon it's probably him and Ethan Strange or Kyle Lero would have to be the top 3, I would say, at the moment, without looking and checking them. But
no surprise.
Oh, wait a minute. I think he might actually be the highest.
Him and he's moved to the lead.
Yeah, Ethan Strange is first, 46%, and then Ero and Brayley are both equal on 40. 1%. Oh, wait, no, Cleary has 42%. Holy shit. There's a lot of heavily owned players,
look
aren't
out.
there? Yeah.
Look out.
Even
We're all going
Sean
to be
Lane,
versing
man.
each other the same teams in
Sean
round one
Lane,
with the way this
40.
is going.
They're going to be no different teams, man. That's the problem that we have at the moment. Without actual, team lists and trials, everyone's just building what they look like the best value on paper is, and they always change closer to the day. But I reckon he starts. There's no reason he doesn't, but I reckon he shares probably maybe half an hour with Crossland. Probably dips into him a fair bit. So,
You know
yeah.
what? I want to pick your brain with this bit because when it first opened up and everyone was obsessed with him, and 41% is huge.
Mm.
I don't think he has the upside of a 41% owned player now that I think more about it and I strip more of it back because I look at it. I know he's in the captaincy group. He's one of the captains there. He's looked at a lot, and he's had two pretty injury riddled seasons now, back to back. And Phoenix Crossland was very good last year. If he wasn't injured at the end of the year, he would have played for the Kiwis. There's no doubt about that. He's at 470K when it comes to Supercoach, 2% owned. I think they're almost a 40-40 split at hooker this year. And I don't think Jaden Bradley is going to get the scores that people are predicting. He's not a very attacking hooker. And if he's not going to be able to get through the base work that people are anticipating, I don't see like I'll still probably start with him after saying this, but I'm not as confident on him anymore.
Yeah.
Like I'm just not. I'm just meh.
It just depends on what
I
role
need to make
Crossland
early
has.
money to then get off him.
Yeah, it just depends on how Crossland takes points off him. Crossland had better points per minute than Bradley did. He was at 0.6 before he got injured, where Crossland kind of was a 0.7 throughout the year. So, it's near about nothing different. But it like in 80-minute roles, you're going to get 50 or 60 out of Brayley. You know what I mean? It's just if he gets that, if that cuts down in half, obviously his points output cuts down in half. And then you're basically talking about where he's priced at as what he can actually do. And that kind of defeats the purpose of 41% ownership. So, at the same time, like I suppose now that, words come out, Brad Arthur wants an 80-minute hooker, and you've got Brayley sandwiched between both of your Eels hookers, depending which one it's going to be, with a lot less ownership. It might be even just worth looking at that for the fact that they're definitely going to play 80, where at the moment it seems like the general consensus is Brayley's not going to get the full 80-minute game because Crossland did nothing to lose that position besides him just coming back.
And that was the big upside for him as well. The big upside to him was the fact that getting him for 330K, you just saw dollar signs. But the more you think about it, as you just said, like, I don't know if you will get the dollar signs that you're anticipating. And there's potentially, we've got to wait for round one team lists. There could be other options that are much better cash grab options. Like the whole purpose of going for Jaden Brayley was cash. Let's not kid ourselves. We weren't going to hold him all year. We're going to get him up to hopefully around probably 500K maybe, and then go, what can we do with that? Let's move him on and hopefully get like a grant in getting rid of someone else or something, or getting into that JMK or the like, or Cook, and getting that double good hooker maybe. I'm not sure what people were thinking, but
Yeah.
I think it defeats the purpose having Crossland there, knowing he's going to be playing some minutes.
Yeah, like I got Brayley in my team at the moment, but I've been looking at, the Hands Lussick combo just under him, thinking which one's more than likely going to get it. I would say probably Hands gets it out of the two of them, considering what's most likely to happen, even though Lussick's a bit cheaper. You can kind of get that little bit extra coin there. But hey.
I think it's Lussick, unfortunately. Brad Arthur loves him, but we'll talk about it in the para one. Yep.
Right,
I would go personally Hands. Hands is
I would go personally Lussick, so I'm fine with that.
Of course,
but that's a different discussion. Yeah, that's a different discussion altogether. But Brayley's right in the middle, and you can make that swing either way. You know what I mean? Like you can save a bit, go down, and you've got a potentially 80-minute hooker right there staring at you, and you haven't chosen him. So, It's 41%, and I feel like that's, if it doesn't go up any higher, it's going to stay there because it's 41 already. You know what I mean? Like, it's very easy to just go sort by highest owned and go, oh, Brayley's only 330. That's such good value. But then you got to consider what role Crossland's going to have. So it's just going to depend, man. It really does. But yeah, if he loses 20, 30 minutes, I feel like he needs that 20, 30 minutes to really bump him up into a nice price point. Like, he'll probably still go up in price. He'll probably go up 100K. Or, maybe just a bit under if he loses a fair bit of minutes to Crossland there. But that's not a bad thing. You're still going to get him fairly cheap, and you still might do something right for you. But at the time, there could be better option cashies at the similar price point. So you just got to look very close to the day, and right before the round starts, just see what's most likely to happen. But yeah, I see Brayley's points getting hurt a little bit.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think that's a good way to end a Newey trip with a cheap hooker discussion. So let's move over. It never gets old, these little hooker.
No, it really
hooker
doesn't,
puns we've
man.
got. It's just
Seriously,
there's always there to take.
Yeah.
The Cronulla Sharks. Obviously, we see the man pictured. We will get to him. He's a huge talking point for the Cronulla Sharks this year. Blake Brayley, I will start a hooker. Sorry, Blake Brayley is an interesting one at 579K, 5% ownership, and I think that's because people are looking to go options that aren't named Harry Grant, and looking to try and find 80-minute hookers, which I think, especially early on, Blake Brayley will be an 80-minute hooker. I don't see him having a bench hooker there, because McInnes will probably be the 14. We all know he comes on and plays that middle role. He doesn't come on and play hooker anymore. Those days are over. So do you see him as the option there? Do you see him?
He's very, very underrated pick, man. Very, very underrated pick. I really like him at that price too, and I just don't think he ever loses. Like, he's not someone that you have to consider injuries about, because it never seems like he's gone. I don't really remember him not actually playing a game for him. He's always playing 80 minutes, or if not 75. Like, he's right up there. And just very consistent. He hasn't really got too many errors in his game, so it just doesn't have a massive, ceiling. He doesn't seem to really get involved attacking wise, because Hynes is there doing all that sort of work. So, like, he's underneath the top two. It's just far enough away in price too that you're not even looking at that bracket. He's down with the Robsons and those sort of guys too. So, 5% ownership. Like, it could be higher too. The Sharks have a really good role, which you haven't got into yet too.
Stop the press. First 5 games.
3 for 3.
Honestly, guys, kick me in the you know what, and just send me off to just pasture, basically. Go and abuse me in the DMs. I'll cop it for this one. Sharks first 5 fixtures. Warriors round 1, the Bulldogs round 2, round 3 is the Tigers, round 4 is the Raiders, round 5 is the bye. That's my only concern about having Brayley, is that bye, because if you're not having Harry Grant, if you do go for Blake Brayley, because that's your option from it. And then your second option is probably his brother, Brad Jaden, at this stage. If not, we go for maybe one of the para hookers. We'll see how that pans out. If that does happen, then that's ideal. Then I'm okay with this. But that buy is a little bit of an awkward thing, because otherwise we've always talked about Reece Robson as another option as well, and he doesn't have the buy to contend with. He has quite a decent run to start with as well, and that probably puts him just ahead for mine of Blake Brayley, because I don't have to worry about the buy.
Well, that's kind of my mentality with it too. Is if it's not a position where you have that much depth for, and you don't have that second guy to really cover you, then you don't really want your first guy being off recently, or right now anyway. But yeah, that's kind of the half the reason why I've gone to, like, personally, Robson over Brayley. I don't really see their points output actually being too different. I reckon they could probably do a very similar job to one another. But that buy kind of hurts a little bit, and I don't have anyone I'm super confident to play at hooker without, that sort of fella. So, I don't know, man. Like, if you're all about the fixtures and stuff, like, those are some really good opening games. Whether Brayley's going to get involved too much in the attacking side of things, which is what you'd want out of him, but because that's the thing too, like if they're flat track bullies and they're smoking these guys, you can't think him doing too many of like a defensive kind of stat work rate. But you got to think there's a few try assists in there, surely out of the ruck, maybe. But yeah, for me personally,
hooker, is he?
No, not really, man. He doesn't really seem to have that.
Because I look at it in the last 2 years, they've had similar sort of easier draws throughout the year, really. And he's never been that guy in Supercoach that you look at and he's got that 100 or something. And for the draw side of things and the teams they get to verse frequently, you'd expect that. So obviously he's just one of those, and that's the Sharks' game plan, is get the ball to Nico to do his thing. And
that's it.
That's not too bad for his price tag, I guess, but that's also another reason why, I don't know.
Yeah, you kind of want that extra little bit too. And like Grant's obviously got it. Marshall King has it too. I think even Robson's got a bit of an attacking game about him. So he scored one try last year against the Roosters. And then you look at try
as well.
Do you remember it?
Oh, it was classic. It was just, it turned the momentum of the game.
Oh, I bet it did. I'd love to go see the results of that game, see how much shit you're talking. But yeah, man, he's got try assists in him. 0.4 was his average for the game. For the season, sorry, try assist wise. So you're going to get one almost every other game, maybe here or there, one every three kind of thing. But it's just not really enough to get that attacking stat upside. But his base is really good. The early buy kind of hurts, but if you've got someone on the bench there that's going to be doing a good job for you to start with early on, yeah, it's not a bad pick at all, considering. But for 50k more, you're at Marshall King. Do you make that swap? He's got an early buy too, so you don't really have that same discussion to go against. It's the same situation. Yeah.
I think that's it. Front row forward now for the Sharkies. I look at the list and there's really nothing that really tickles my fancy too much. I look at the ownership percentage, there's not much there as well. Toby Rudolph, 480k, average 47 last year. Again, if you're looking at that sort of mark for a forward, I just think there's better options out there who can do a slightly better job than Toby Rudolph. He just hasn't really taken the game on as what I thought he could. I thought he could really establish himself as a top 10 prop in the game. I just feel like he's just teetering on the edge with that still, and has been for some time now. I know there's been that preseason talk where he was in a drunken conversation with Fitzy and said he's going to get off the grog and take this year so seriously, and he wants to be the main guy for the Sharks, which, look, if he does do that and he comes out all guns blazing, then I've got no doubt within the first few weeks, he becomes an option that people look at, but just haven't seen it yet. So I just can't even talk about entertaining the fact of starting with him. And that's probably the same with Hamlin Ueli at 375 as well. Even though it's 100k cheaper, I just can't sort of touch either of them.
Yeah, I really like it when a player comes out and says he's getting off the beers for that year, because they always tend to do quite good. I remember when Munster said it a few years ago, and it was the best season he ever had in ever. So it just, I don't know, man. Like, Rudolph's not a bad price. I still reckon he does what his 48s, his 50s, that kind of thing, with the occasional 60 here and there, because he did do that last year. Obviously, he had a massive gap in the middle of the season. But, there was a couple of decent-sized games in there. But, again, it's just base, you know what I mean? It's just, he's just doing that. But there is a lot of options, we even just saw it. There's 3 of the Knights guys priced less than that could probably do the same thing. There's plenty of them. Flegler as well. So he's almost the same price as Flegler, basically. And I reckon Flegler does more than Rudolph does. Well, thereabouts the same. And Braden Hamlin-Ueli, it's one of those things now that he's got this massive contract tabled up with the Warriors. You got to think surely that the Sharks play him a bit more, try and entice that little bit extra, but who knows?
Or just say, if you're leaving, we're going to get everything we can out of you this last year. You're going to be earning your money. So
yeah, exactly. Just
maybe a sneaky option for 375k. Yeah, you don't know,
but I don't know.
I got breaking news.
What is it?
Off the back of what we just spoke about, off the grog, Peter V'landys has actually messaged me through. He's listening live somehow. I don't know how, because we're not even going live. He's told me, he's actually personally told Nathan Cleary he's not allowed to. He has to actually drink throughout the season. Otherwise, the comp will just be unfair. Like, it would just be Penrith more so than what it is now. So just quickly get that out there for guys that clearly will be on the grog frequently throughout this year to try and even out the competition a little bit.
You ever been to Panthers, mate? There's no way you're not getting on the grog in Penrith.
It's massive.
No chance. It is. And then you got the bloody golf out the back, aqua golf.
Oh, how good's
what
the
a
aqua
fun,
golf there?
What a fun night in Penrith,
I only have time to, and ideal night. You go there. I think they've still got Frangos there. You get a feast of Frangos. Then you go to Krispy Kreme and get a dessert, get a shake and a donut, and then you go over and spend a few hours burning all that off. You probably can't really move, but you still go and attempt it. You go do some aqua golf, and then you go and probably just put 50 through the pokies to see if you can get everything back you just spent for the night.
Burn it all.
But anyway, shout out Panthers if you want to sponsor the podcast. Happy to have a bit of a discussion. Even aqua golf, if you want to jump on board, we will promote you through the roof.
All about
I want to talk about number 6 here. Jesse, I can never say his name. Jesse Colquhoun, 238K, 4%. We started to see him a little bit last year, played 5 games. I've probably got his name completely wrong. I
I'm not even going to attempt
no idea how to do it.
I'm not even going to try. It's probably
just keep an eye on him. 238K. He has the dual, which is always handy. If you can get some minutes, if you can get a bench roll, could just become a sneaky little play just to sort of sit there and try and generate something would be nice.
Maybe next year.
Anyway. Or even the year before. Next year. We'll talk about that in 2025. Second rowers, Britton Nakora. You are a massive fan of this guy, so I'll let you take the floor.
Like last year, Nakora was obviously, I freaking know, I'm pretty sure he was in almost everyone's team. He was very heavily owned from like middle onwards because I didn't expect it to begin with Nakora. I think I started with Wilton early on and did that swap quite early, but playing next to Nico, you naturally have to assume you're going to get these really, really fancy little balls going through, and he's going to score a fair few tries, and he did pretty consistently too, and he was averaging, 80 plus for a good run. 710's a pretty decent price too for the potential you're going to get out of him. He's got a little thumbs up there, and again, we can talk about the really nice draw that they start off with. They got the Bulldogs and the Tigers around 2 and 3. Like the Warriors might be a tricky game, but I think for Nakora, it's sort of one of those games where he does want to step up a little bit harder too. So that's not a bad fixture for him. And then you just got to expect the Sharks to just destroy the next two with the Bulldogs and Tigers, and you'd expect Nakora to be involved in that somehow. I would think so anyway. So if you're in the mindset of going sweet premium second rower and you want to spend in that 700s, I think he's a great option for the 700s. Sorry, because between your Fafitas and Tinos, obviously we spoke about that too last week. Dave, uncertainly, and Tino's just a bit overpriced. For an attacking second row option, I feel like Nakora is the first one that you could probably get on at the moment. That's not Fafita. Who's got a bit of a doubt about him. And then you can look like Yo's below him in price, but obviously Yo doesn't have that upside that Nakora does. And then Carrigan's even in there, Tohu. There's so many of them. Like they drop off quite quickly. So for that attacking second rower that's going to bank you a try regularly enough, to be considered, an actual stat he can bank on. I like it, and I don't really see value changing too much. But again, like he did have a really good year. He has had quiet years in the past, but I don't think he's had a quiet year since Nico's been there. So, he's that premium guy. But again, like it's very hard to find 700 in the second row unless you sort of commit to having that first guy. Like I've been pretty vocal about having Cam Murray in, and really that's how much is that from Murray to him? 70k. It's like, can I find 70k to go up to Nakora? I don't know. It's a bit tricky.
Not at this stage.
Probably not. No, I can barely find 5k to do anything. It is. It's heaps.
In saying that, my current team, I've got 100k in the bank again, so I don't know how I keep doing this, but I seem to just keep having money and just can't spend it. So
look at you.
Thank you, Supercoach, for the extra money for League of Inches. I really appreciate it.
I'll just go from Robson.
You mentioned Wilton.
Hey, go on. Yeah, it's all right.
Robson to where? You're going to go Harry Grant up?
No, go down to Brandon Smith, and there's 100k. So
Wait till
Yeah.
the Roosters, because that is a talking point and a half. But let's just tease the viewers. I think
Yeah.
the Roosters are next
Tune
week,
in.
so I can't wait to
Yep.
have a chat about that one. T. Wilton, you did mention 610K, 0% ownership at the moment. I just think that's because of the mid-tier options that are available. They're just sort of not really looking at Wilton at the moment, and that's probably fair enough for mine. Just sort of with Nakora taking off, and then as we just said that the cheaper players around, I just don't see him as that option. McInnes is just a toiler. You know what you get from McInnes, 599K. He's probably going to be more reliant on the fact if Finucane plays or doesn't play. He probably becomes more of an option if Finucane's out once again. Then he gets pretty much 80 minutes, and then he can do his thing and get you consistently 60 points or so. And you're happy with it. But at the start, I don't think he's an option just because, again, with those mid-tier options. Old Billy Burns, you've heard us in our NRL season preview. Massive fans of Billy Burns. Love him. I can't believe he's continuing to go. I think this is his third club, a fourth club or something in 2 years or something. So he's just insane.
Nuts, man.
Finucane, you get a bit of a discount on Finucane with, actually not really. It's 439K still, no interest.
It's pretty much
And
it.
Jack Williams, no interest at all. Let's go to the main man, Nicholas Hynes. There's Nicholas Hynes. It feels weird saying his full name. I'm just saying Nico Hynes. Get that in. Stop reading from the bloody app. 970K. I think he's the most expensive player in Supercoach for 2024. 37% ownership. So there is people going all in. We're all in. He's my first choice when it comes to Supercoach this year. For those just opening the app and getting started and listening to this to get some pointers, just put him in your team and work around it. We've already spoken about the draw. He's the center point of everything that they do. He averages at over 100 every time they play at Shark Park. And I think they get a few early games at Shark Park as well. So that's a bonus. And I think with the addition of now Trindle instead of Matt Moylan is a benefit for Hynes because it takes off some of the actual preparation work and some of that sort of work away from him, and he can just be the runner. He can just do pretty much what he can with the ball instead of having to stop and organize everyone where they got to go. So honestly, even at 970K, I can see, it's crazy to say, I can see him going up, especially early.
Of course, man. Like you saw last year where he started round 4 coming off a calf injury with a round 5 bye. And people are like, "I'll wait till after the bye." You know, like why would you get him in just to have him off again for another week? He scored 180 points. Just punished everyone who didn't get him.
Well.
Just insane. Oh, every week. Yeah, it's a safe captain every week. I just can't see the argument against it, to be fair. Like, why not? Why wouldn't
37% is low. I'll go as far as
honestly,
saying
it should be higher.
60%.
60
to 70%, and you just make it work.
Yeah.
He
could start off 1.1 and I'd probably justify it.
Yep. Easy.
Yeah. We'll move to the 5.8, say. There's no point talking about Nico. He's the best freaking player in the game. Leave him. I don't like spending too much time on things, mate. So
no. don't lie.
So about Nico.
Braden Trindle, 439K, the dual 5/8 and halfback. 6% ownership, because I think a few people, because he'll probably do a bit more work in this team now that he's got the guaranteed starting spot. I just don't like having two playmakers in the same team. I think that's a bit of a dangerous territory that I don't like to go to. Yeah. So for mine, I won't be starting with him, but I guess for that, what was it, 63% that so far don't have Nicholas Hynes. That's crazy to put it in that way. That is holy shit.
When you think about who don't have
maybe
him,
going,
what are you doing?
When you maybe Trindle's an okay option, but again, I don't think I spend too much time on Trindle, but
I just don't think people have really paid too much attention to the fact they lose both of them together. You know, that's going to hurt. And that's the same when you double up on anyone. If you went for Hynes and Nakora, it's such a nice play. You know what I mean? At some point in the year, I reckon I'll have that. I'll have Nakora in the team too. And it's you kind of want him for that early start. So I've almost half been trying to justify fitting him in somehow. You know, who do I have to sacrifice to get him in just to capitalize on those first 3 games? But you're going for points and not so much in the cash side of things. But yeah, with Trindle, it's the same. Like he's got good value at 439 if he gets, the thing is, he's not going to take anything off Nico. It's not going to happen.
That's
Like
the
you're not going to
thing.
go in there and you're not going to take points away from Nico Hynes. You're going to just work next to him and kind of pot along. So he'll do more than Moylan did. He's a better player in general, I think, and sort of Moylan towards the back end of his career anyway. But dual 5'8's nice. You can play him one or the other. You wouldn't play him next to each other, but yeah, it's a
He
tricky
did
one.
all
If
his
he
good
was,
work last year when Nico was hurt.
yeah,
So that's what you're
yeah.
relying on.
But I think when they did his points comparison, when when you look what he was scoring when Nico come back, like it was in the 40s and this kind of thing. Like he's just going to chip away. So yeah, I can see people getting him in to try and make coin out of him, thinking that he's going to be elevated by Nico, but I think he's just probably going to do exactly where he's sort of priced at, maybe less. Because yeah, it's the thing, man. You're not going to take anything away from Nico Hynes. So
no, I agree. Center wing, Ronaldo Muliatalo, 627K, 2% ownership. Pair him in with the other winger, Sione Katoa, 493K, 2% ownership as well. They've been pains in the asses last year because you just could never seem to get it right when you select. I know for you personally, it was 1 week you'd have one, the other week, the other one, then it would just be an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, it's my worst take
Headache
of the
to
year.
avoid.
Just trying to, capitalize on Katoa's run of games and to just get slapped in the face with his worst score of the season. I think a couple of back-to-back consecutive shit scores, and I won't be going there. Even still, 493 for the run they have, for the potential they've got to go massive. Because you would think that at some point, I would definitely back Mulatalo over Katoa. But again, you're paying that extra for Mulatalo at the same time. So
130.
Yeah, it's a lot more for, hoping he just gets that extra bit of coin. But I don't like any of them, to be honest with you. I don't like any of them. I don't think you can rely on
I don't
any
like
of them.
any of these back options, like the top 4 or 5
No.
back options for the Sharkies in Supercoach. I actually don't like any of them.
Yeah, it's wild too, because then you get into the fullbacks, and I don't like their fullbacks either. I actually don't like any of their backline enough to justify starting with any of them. As far
But
as
then we
Nico
get
Hynes,
interesting.
do we? Oh, well,
Then we go to Kyle Iro.
Yeah.
I can't roll me R's, guys. So sorry, I can't do that properly. But centering fullback Chul, 219K, 41% ownership. There's a lot of hopeful Supercoach players out there, and I am one of them. The guy can play. He, especially attack-wise, at defense, he still has a little bit of work to do. I think that might be why Fitzy hasn't gone all in on him yet. He would no doubt get a taste for mine this year. I don't know if it's going to be to start with or if it's going to be at some point during the year. I keep saying, and everyone who's listened to the podcast now over the last year or so know that I'm a big fan of Talakai going to the bench and becoming a bench forward and coming on and adding some impact. I think that's where Kyle will just come into his own and get to start, and that's when everyone will be all over him. The other young guy to talk about at fullback, K Dykes, 219K, 1% ownership so far, but he is coming off an injury and an ACL, which is the hard thing, but he did that very, very early last year. So he should be fully recovered now. He should be fighting fit, and from some of the pitches he is. Both players for mine are huge watches, and I'm now that, and the only hard thing with Cade is it's only fullback only, so he needs to get center wing dual to be any sort of option there. That's why I think his ownership is only 1% because
I was going to say the same thing. It's just if he had that dual center too, you could probably make the argument if it was one or the other between Euro or Dykes. It's like you just pick the one that's actually going to play. Either one. Yeah, you'd probably much prefer a Dyke anyway.
Hang on.
Got him.
Wait.
Hold on.
Wow. We must be ending the episode.
We're not far away from it, but yeah, we've gone through all the centers and stuff and the wingers with them, and if Talakai moves out, I think it's that sort of ownership, 41%, you just got to get him, and he's cheap enough anyway that you can just fill that hole, and you just sort of leave him in there and just pray that he gets the center spot, because it's not exciting to look at, you know what I mean? And the more you every year that goes on, you see Raymond and Talakai, just Raymond in general, like they're just chipping away. Like, just give someone else a run. It's not very exciting, but just put him on your bench and just leave it and just wait and see what happens with him. He's cheap enough that you don't have to care too much about any of it. And if
Fingers crossed.
just fingers crossed, see what happens. But like, there's enough talk about it that you would expect something. Like, you can't just be all 41% ownership when everyone's talking about Talakai moving and Aero coming up and doing this and that for nothing to eventuate from it. So again, though, if nothing does happen, then everyone's stuck with him. So it's a big ownership, but very, very low risk. You're happy to you need someone to loop one day. You know what I mean? Could be the guy.
Yeah. I think that's pretty much.
Yeah. There's no point talking about Will Kennedy. He's $660K. He's way too expensive. It's just, that's the thing, man. Like, you look at the whole team and you just look at that draw and you think you got to get onto a couple of them at least, but there really isn't that many to get on.
No.
Besides Hynes, it's Hynes' team and everyone else is just there showing up. So. Yeah,
I agree, mate. I think that's pretty much it for the Sharkies in this episode, which we told you guys this was going to be another big, even though it was one team less, it was always going to be this. But I hope we got a lot out of it. We keep getting some good feedback, so keep it coming, keep the feedback coming as well. Keep the subscriptions happening on both YouTube and over on our podcast, and give us some love on our social media pages as well. Next week is some big news coming when it comes to, say, some sponsorship stuff. There's some sponsorship stuff, and there's also some a guest appearance. So we've got everything. It's late night. It is fantastic once again. There's also a big I don't want to give too much away, but there's going to be some prizes announced as well for Supercoach. I've been too busy this week, so I haven't been able to get our public Supercoach competitions out there yet, but that is in the works to be done by over the weekend, and I'll have them out on the page from probably Sunday night or Monday first thing as well. So, Jesse, thank you once again coming on. Love your opinions.
My pleasure.
Again, we've finished an episode, and I feel like I'm about to go onto the Supercoach app and almost start again, keeping Ponga and Hynes in there and Cleary, and just seeing what else I can do. So we've confused ourselves once again. Our brains are fried, but Supercoach never dies.
It happens every week, doesn't it?
Good night.
Thanks, mate.
Good night.
See you later.